In this video, we're talking about 3 lies that you've been told about veganism. And no, it's not clickbait. All right, this one's gonna be controversial, that you have to go 100% vegan. That's a lie. You do not have to go 100% vegan to make a big difference. And I know I'm gonna upset some people by saying that because the word vegan means something very specific, and it's different than the term plant-based, for example, which is a term that's used to describe people who eat vegan food, but they haven't made the lifestyle changes to the beauty products that they use or, avoiding wearing animal materials like leather. I do think that words matter, and so yes, technically the word vegan is kind of an all or nothing thing, but I don't think the vegan movement is really doing itself any favors by being so precious about the word and creating so many barriers to entry. When I first went vegan 8 years ago, there was a lot of shaming in the vegan community. There was a lot of pressure to do it 100%, all or nothing, do it perfectly, and if you didn't do that, you weren't a good person. You didn't care about the animals, and I just don't think that's true. And furthermore, I think it pushes people away. And if your goal is really to create change in this world, by pressuring people and making them feel bad, you are actually creating a situation where the only people who are eating plant-based meatless meals is that very small group of exclusively 100% vegan people, and therefore we're not really creating the change that we want to. And furthermore, we're also not really living out the intention of veganism, which is compassion. I think so much more can be done if we celebrate the efforts that people are making to eat plant-based meals, period. Whether that's one plant-based meal a week, whether it's one plant-based meal a day, or if they eat vegan 50% of the time, that adds up. That really matters. And that saves so many animal lives and preserves so many natural resources. So no, you do not have to go 100% fully vegan. I make plant-based recipes for people who like good food, whether they're vegan or not. And I believe that every time someone chooses to make one of my recipes and have a plant-based meal, that they're doing a lot of good, and those efforts should be celebrated. Lie number 2, that it's possible for everyone to go vegan overnight. This is simply not the case, and I feel like a lot of times when people try to change everything about the way that they eat overnight, it ends up not working out for them. And this lie is particularly frustrating for me because I find that it pushes people away from veganism, and they feel that either it's too hard, they don't know how to do it, or it just doesn't make them feel good. And I think a lot of that can be avoided if we encourage people to start small. I personally have been vegan for 8.5 years, and I did not go vegan overnight. I do know that it's possible. I know some people who have totally gone vegan overnight. They made a big change and it worked for them, and so it's definitely possible. But for a lot of people, myself included, starting small was key. I started with breakfast. Super small, 1 meal a day, and I didn't even change the breakfast I was making. I just swapped out the milk in my coffee and the milk in my oatmeal, the same breakfast I was already making. I just changed the milk. I went from using cow's milk to a non-dairy milk, and I experimented with different brands until I found the one that I like. And when that got easy, I was kind of curious to try other things because that was kind of a fun and easy swap. And so eventually I was trying, vegan cream cheese on my bagels, or I was swapping out my scrambled eggs for making tofu scramble, and I was finding that it was really fun, and that eating a plant-based diet was creating a lot of variety in my life and kind of shaking up the way that I cook and the ingredients that I use, and I found it to be really fun. And I think that enthusiasm and fun and curiosity is what propelled me forward and got me to try vegan dinners and making vegan dessert. I think sometimes in our minds it's really tempting to want to do things all at once, but really it really never works out. I think it's way too much pressure, even if we're the only ones putting that pressure on ourselves. And I understand the passion and the excitement and wanting to make a big change, but I think ultimately starting slow and remembering that at its root, veganism is about so much more than food. It is about compassion, and that compassion really does need to extend to ourselves and to be gentle with ourselves, because whenever you make a change, I think that being compassionate and slow and intentional is way more sustainable than trying to do everything at once. Lie number 3, that it's easy to get everything you need nutritionally speaking from a plant-based diet. This is a lie, but it's a tricky one because it's totally possible to get everything you need nutritionally speaking from a well-planned plant-based diet. But I do think that and this is kind of a hot take, I think it is wild that people will read entire instruction manuals, watch YouTube tutorials, read tons of reviews, all to learn about something like their new iPhone. But when it comes to nutrition and our bodies, we just expect that we're just gonna know this. Like, we're just supposed to know this stuff. And I think that's crazy. I think building a well-balanced plate, whether you're vegan or not, is something that you have to learn. You have to know the nutrients in certain foods and how to pair them together to create a balancing, satisfying, nutritionally dense meal. And when you go vegan, you're changing the way that you did that before. And so there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be, a time where you have to educate yourself on how to get the nutrients that you need in a plant-based way. And for example, one thing that I learned was that just pumpkin seeds, like a couple tablespoons of pumpkin, I'll put it on the screen right here. But being armed with information like this makes it easy for me to think, oh, this meal could probably use a little bit more protein. Let me sprinkle on a couple of tablespoons of pumpkin seeds onto my cereal bowl or onto my salad, or blend them up in recipes like my 3-minute blueberry milkshake smoothie, one of my favorites, by the way. And that way I easily increase the protein in my diet in a matter of seconds, all because I know the nutritional value of pumpkin seeds. And for me, the biggest shift when it came to learning about plant-based nutrition was to stop seeing food in a reductionist way, just as their macros. And keep in mind, I'm not an expert, but what I personally have learned and what's been helpful for me is that pumpkin seeds are more than just protein. They're more than just fat. They're more than just minerals. They're all of it. And that's kind of the beauty of whole foods, is that they really offer so much. So instead of having, a protein, a starch, and a fiber, it's kind of all of that all in one. And so it's just a matter of finding a balance of those ingredients that makes you feel your best. And you might be thinking, well, that sounds great, but how do I learn about plant-based nutrition? I personally would recommend seeing a registered dietitian, not a nutritionist. Make sure that they are a registered dietitian, that they are licensed, reputable, and that they really have an understanding of the plant-based diet and how to help you reach your goals. I personally also took a class in plant-based nutrition. I also tracked what I was eating, especially just in the beginning. I didn't do this for very long because it really did become second nature and became very easy. But in the beginning, especially when I was wanting to make sure that I was getting enough, tracking what I was eating was super helpful because I didn't focus so much on one day or, one specific target. For me, it was about recognizing patterns like for the whole week. So, one day, things can change day to day, but over the course of a week, if I found that I was consistently not getting enough iron, for example, that allowed me to then intentionally add more iron-rich foods to my meals to try to make sure that I could level that out a little bit. So I was able to make adjustments based on the data, and there wasn't guesswork. I wasn't like, oh, I hope I'm getting enough iron. I was able to see this. So for me, that was really helpful. But I will say that it can be really easy to get hung up on the numbers. So if you find that that's going to be too triggering for you, I beg you to please take care of yourself, put your mental health first, and do not do that if it's not going to be good for you. It was personally good for me, but there are so many other options. As I mentioned, talking to a registered dietitian is probably going to be your best bet. Bottom line, I know there are going to be people who feel like I'm being mean to vegans or that I'm talking badly about veganism, but I hope that after you watch this video, you don't feel that way. I think that if our goal as vegans is to be compassionate, we have to be honest with people. We have to explain to them that yes, it is a big change. There is a learning curve. It is difficult sometimes to change your habits. Acting like it's not is not nice. It makes people feel bad. It makes people feel like they're doing something wrong, and it turns them away, which is turning them away from the change that we're trying to create. So instead, if we acknowledge that it's hard and that they don't have to do it perfectly, and that, hey, we ourselves did not even always do it perfectly. Like I said, I started small. I started with breakfast. Like, I think the more honest and open we are and the more barriers we remove, the more people are going to be open to eating plant-based meals. And I think that can only be a good thing. I hope that came across in this video, but I would love to know what you guys think is like the biggest lie that you've heard about veganism, or maybe one that you used to believe yourself and now you don't believe anymore. I love when you guys chime in, so maybe we could even turn the comments into a part 2 of this video. Let me know if you'd like to see that. And if you want to watch this video called Why I'm Still Vegan, it's one of my favorite videos I've ever made, and even though I made it years ago, I still believe it and I still feel like it holds true. So go ahead and check that out and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. I love you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye.